So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever you want to, whatever you're in the mood for. My name is Joe Weston. It's October 31st, 2023, and we're here for our Reviving the Global Heart practice. And it's really great to see some new faces, people who are joining in for the first time. It's nice to see, I won't use the word old faces. Some of my face is old, but wouldn't call everyone else's face old. But some familiar faces, I guess you could use that word. As we hold space, as we for in a loving way, in a respectful way, in a caring way, for the events that are unfolding on the planet. And as I mentioned last time, we revived the Reviving the Global Heart, and it seems like it got a good revival with interest in continuing. We did that last week. And again, to just give the context, we've been doing this. We did this for a 5-year period. We did every Tuesday for 5 years, from 2018 to 2023. We kind of took a break in April of 2023, and I personally thought it would be a good time to revive it, to give people the space to be in community, to share, and to support and love one another in these radically challenging times that we're in, that we've been in, and that we are currently in for the last few weeks. So it's really an honor that you're all here. I'm very grateful that you're here. And as usual, what we do is I'm going to share some thoughts that I've been having from my heart, and then I'll lead us in the practice that we have been doing as a way of us cultivating our hearts to be able to resonate and hold more for the global heart. And then there'll be time after that to reflect from your heart, what's on your heart, what you want to share, or just whatever your reflections are. So as I asked, if you wouldn't mind just putting in the chat where you are currently living at the moment. I feel compelled to want to share that I am currently in Washington, D.C., and that I am currently occupying on lands that were stewarded by the Piscataway tribes, as well as other tribes. Feeling my privilege to, with ease, be able to walk onto this land and rent an apartment and do all of those things, and constantly remembering that there are many people on this planet who don't have that luxury and don't have that privilege. And considering those that I get to inhabit a land that was inhabited by others who no longer inhabit that land. And that seems to be the game that human beings like to play. And part of what I want to talk about, part of this practice what we've done for 5 years is understanding what it means, this concept of a global heart. And to consider, and for me, what that means is we, the human family, are one family. Whether we like it or not, whether we see it or not, it is so. And it's always been so, it currently is so, and it always will be so. And that's my viewpoint. Anything I share today is just my truth. I am not expecting anyone to believe what I believe. I'm not expecting anyone to believe anything without investigating. I can only share, the only power I have in my words is my truth, and that's all I'm sharing. And through my investigation of all my traditions and working around the world and being in conflict zones and the way, and my childhood and my growing up and working with different kinds of people around the world, this is my conclusion. That we are one human family, and that as a global heart, we are all interconnected and we are all interdependent. And the image that I was thinking of is that, if just think for a moment of those days, for the Dutch people in the group, this is going to be easy. Think of those overcast days where it's very cloudy and it's dark and it's rainy and chilly and cold, and you forget that there's a sun. And even if you don't forget that there's a sun, you have no connection with the sun at that moment, but that doesn't mean the sun disappeared. It simply means that you in this moment have no direct connection with the sun. And I want to bring that up, of this idea of what I think we often get into as human beings is this idea of this concept that human beings took on of separation, that we are separate. That we are separate is a mental construct. We have always been connected. And in a sense, when we believe the concept of separation, we forget that which always is, which is we are interconnected. So I want to bring that up, is that, and that's what part of this practice is to help us in ourselves to investigate the things that are keeping us from remembering that and from experiencing that. And especially in moments that we're seeing now, especially with what unfolded on October 7th, when we were radically shaken into a glimpse to what human beings are capable of, the horror that human beings are capable of, which shocks us into usually our fight, flight, freeze response. And as I've said, with this work, we're here to cultivate this practice of how can we see ourselves as midwives for a global system that is dying away, and midwives for a system that is being birthed, that is emerging, that is already here, as I talked about last week. We are stepping into a higher level of evolution as human beings. It's here. It's just that now we're getting rid of, we're looking at and confronting, and we're being confronted with all the things that are still creating these blocks or ways that we're not able to tap into that and see that. And I feel that it is, in a sense, our obligation to see how, what is our patterning now? So when we get into a shock situation, we go into fight, flight, freeze. Some of us go into fight. We want to fight the system. We want to fight the situation. And that usually what we see play out really doesn't result in peaceful, inclusive solutions. It usually just feeds the problem or the situation, adds fire to what's already burning, in a sense. Or we're in a flight situation where we can't deal with what's happening, so we get caught up in online discussions and discourse and fights. That's where addictions get activated. That's where we say we want to go back to a time when, for instance, America was great again, or other things were great again, or we're holding on to a vision of how we think the world is, but isn't actually. We're in a flight response. And many people are stuck in a freeze response, where we see what's happening, but we don't know what to do. Or we're frightened to do something because we're afraid of what it might mean for us, the implications for us, or what we might lose. And I bring this up in my book as a response that we're all experiencing now. As things are getting more intense, there's more anxiety, there's more fear, there's more animosity, there's more polarization, there's more bullying. And if we're not mindful, those are our responses: fight, fight, freeze. And how do we shift that, or how do we address that? And not that we have an obligation to anyone else, but it's more in terms of our practice. I mean, a number of people who are here and that I engage with claim to teach and actually advocate for a culture of love and compassion, where we can tap into our wisdom, where all are welcome. And the question always is that, when we talk about if we are all interconnected and interdependent, that's all of us. And is it possible for us to exclude certain people from that? And that's our work to do. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying that it's something to consider. And that's what I feel is playing out right now. There's an enormous amount of fear. It's an enormous amount of pain that is real. And what is our, at least for myself, I think, what is my role in holding that for those who are in deep fear? What can I do to support that? How can I take care of myself and my own responses? But when we get into the fight, flight, freeze response, one of the things, the tools that I bring up in the fear stability book is rewiring this instinct we have to either be in the state of aggressor or defender. When we go to a default, our lowest common denominator, we end up in an aggressor or defender attitude, which is what we're seeing play out. And the work is, how can we go from aggressor to protector and defender to nurturer? That we understand their first instinct is probably going to be to aggress, to want to fight, or to defend. And how do we rewire that within ourselves where we shift it, where it's not that we're aggressing, we're protecting. There's a different energy in that. One is more aggressive, one is more assertive. Or that we're in a state of defending or being passive, and how do we switch that into being a nurturer? And for me, that really is what I feel is what the world needs now, aside from love, sweet love, is more of us to step into our protector and our nurturer. And that, because the image that I keep coming, what has unfolded, on one way, and I'm not an expert on the issue. I think that's important. I've spent the last 10 years, I've been working in the Middle East. I've been working with Israeli people. I've been working with Palestinian people, with Jordanian people, with Lebanese people. I've been working with various people around the world around these issues, mostly around gender justice and women's rights. But I did learn a lot. And basically what I learned that I wouldn't have learned if I wasn't there, literally in the space, what I learned is that there's a lot that I don't know. And that there's a lot that most of us don't know. You're talking about 4,000 years of history in the region. And my concern is that many people think that they're experts because they read certain newspapers or online chats or whatever. And some people are more informed than others. Some people have direct experience there. But it's a situation that if it was an easy solution to solve, it would have been solved already. It's not an easy situation to solve. And that we are not at the point right now where we could solve it. And the image I have is I'm thinking of a building that is burning. And what we're currently living through because of this situation is the building is burning. There have been a number of people who have gruesomely been burned to death in that building. And there are other people who are still alive in that building. And what it seems to me that's playing out is that we are all standing in the building, denigrating and not regarding the burnt bodies who have suffered, and fighting to see who caused the fire, instead of thinking, let's get the burnt bodies out and honor them and give them a decent burial and experience, and let's get the people who are alive out of that building to safety. Then let's do the healing process for everyone involved. Then we can stop and take a look and see who caused the fire, is there someone to blame, and what can we do? Or I didn't even say about, let's put the fire out. Let's and maybe that's a way of putting the fire out, is understanding the root cause of the fire. But right now, I feel personally that we're missing the human step of how do we take care of the people who have been hurt, and how do we take care of the people who are currently hurting, and how do we take care of the people who are in a perpetual state of hurt. Again, I'm not saying I'm right or wrong. What I'm just offering is that that's something for us to consider, is how can we hold space for those who are suffering? How do we take care of ourselves in that suffering? And how do we hold space for those who are suffering? And I want to add a little bit. Last week, I talked about, I used Hamlet as an example, because I love Shakespeare. And I, for those of you who know the story of Hamlet from Shakespeare, Prince Hamlet, the story of the tragedy of Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, that everyone, he had to avenge his father's death, and he took the whole play to figure out if he's going to do it or not. And there's a lot of talks about him being indecisive and all of that. And all these psychological things, but I've offered that my conclusion is that he was born into medieval Denmark, where there were very medieval views about how to live life, of what justice was, where it was normal that if someone harmed your family, you would avenge them. Then found himself in school in Germany and experienced the Enlightenment, the Renaissance, understanding more humanistic ways of looking at how human beings function, a more nonviolent, compassionate way, understanding a different place for human beings in the universe, which was an awakening for him. He was rewired. He was different. And then he went back to Denmark, where he was expected to avenge his father's death. And his dilemma was, do I revert back to my medieval roots? Or do I hold on to this more humanistic idea, which doesn't include revenge? And I said that, because it's tragedy, unfortunately, he chose a very bloody, messy path. The part I didn't say last week is that the good news for us is that, so the comparison I'm making is that there are many people on this planet who are awakened on a certain level. We understand compassion. We understand love. We understand nonviolence. We understand more humanistic at a higher level, particularly younger generations. That it's normal for young people to use the word karma in their normal ways of talking. I remember I was doing a retreat in Hawaii, facilitating a retreat, and at the same retreat center, there was a yoga teacher training with like 25 young people learning how to be yoga instructors. The world has shifted in terms of that. That's the emergence. That's the awakening that is happening. There are so many of us that know that we're interconnected, interdependent, who understand that compassion is not just a loving idea, it's action, justice, and equity. Poor Hamlet, he was by himself in that. So of course, he gets this awakened idea. He goes back to medieval Denmark, and he's pulled back into his enculturation of revenge and medieval viewpoints. He cannot not do that. One of the most inspiring books that, for me in my life, some of you may know it, is by Joseph Chilton Pearce, called The Biology of Transcendence. It's a remarkable book where he talks about that the evolutionary step of the heart is the fourth part of the brain, is the heart. That we have the reptilian brain, the mammalian brain, the prefrontal cortex, that's 3 parts, and that actually the human biology is set up that the heart is actually a part of the brain, and that we have been training ourselves to activate, just like in primitive times, the prefrontal cortex was activated to cultivate more reasoning and a more sophisticated way of thinking and doing society. The heart is the next evolutionary state of human beings. And many of us are tapping into that. We tap into that when we do meditations, when we do ceremony, when we do group, we're waking that up. And just like with neural pathways of the brain, the more you do those practices, the more your neural pathways get stronger, the more you can move through the world with that activated open heart of awakening, where all creatures are equally respected and loved and shown compassion, not just some. The challenge is, as Pearce says, and as I see it, is we're constantly pulled back to our old culture. So we can activate the heart, but we're pulled back to our old stuff. And poor Hamlet by himself could not manage that higher frequency of the awakening, of the enlightenment, of the Renaissance, of a more humanistic way of being. The good news is that we are not alone. There are millions and millions and millions of human beings walking the planet today, or not only individuals, but organizations walking the planet today who get this and are trying their best to keep their hearts activated and not fall back into enculturation. Because as I said last, and that's the awakening. That's what we're midwives for. That's what's being birthed or is already here, and we're softening into it so it can unfold. That's my viewpoint. That's what gives me hope. But events that happen on October 7th and what we're seeing playing is it pulls us back into some of our old conditioning and enculturation. And what can we do to make sure that we keep that open in that sense? We are not alone. That's the good news. And the more we reach out in this way and we connect and we weave our hearts with one another, the more we can keep that awake. And as I say in the Fear Civility book, it doesn't have to be all of us. It just needs to be enough of us. I'm not sure what the magic number is for enough, but I believe that there are enough people on this planet right now that if we can find a way for us to keep our hearts alive, to not fall into these patterns of revenge. And that doesn't mean people who do that, they're bad. That's their path. But like a good midwife, as I said, how do we hold that neutral space? Neutral space doesn't mean indifferent. It means fully engaged. It simply means available to be of service and to take care of, nurture, and protect all parties in all conflicts and all challenges. I'm not saying I'm there yet or I got that down. But one of my biggest ones is to be able to do that for myself. How do I be nurturer and protector for those parts of me that get pulled back into enculturation? So that's what I wanted to share this time, and this is reflective in our practice of how does that play out as we continue to see this practice as a way of us awakening and keeping that heart awake in the sense of understanding that in the heart there is no separation. In the heart, there is no labels of loved one, stranger, and adversary. In the heart, there are just human beings. There are trees. There are rivers. There are puppies. There are mosquitoes that deserve our love and compassion equally. I can tell you, mosquitoes are my number one teacher. Let me tell you, living in DC, people say it's a swamp. It literally is a swamp. It's not like a political thing. DC was built on a swamp. And I'll tell you, in the summertime, I can't sit outside sometimes because I'm sure that as soon as I'm sitting outside, all of the mosquitoes from the entire Washington metropolitan area goes, huh? And they get very excited and they come from miles to feast on my body. I'm sure of that. Sure of it. And they're a great teacher because my instinct is to want to swat and kill. But because I'm trying to cultivate, I'm committed to a practice of not doing that. It's a lot of work. But so what are your teachers? Who are your teachers? The mosquitoes are mine. Who are your teachers now? Who are the people that you are finding that, and I've spoken with some of you at the Fear Civility meetup, some of you have shared that it's hard for you to talk to some friends because they're locked in a political view of, for the Middle East, of who the perpetrator is and who the victim is and who should be supported. How are they your teacher in this moment? And mostly it could be just holding space for them, but mostly how can you learn with them to cultivate a deeper, more fierce sense of protecting yourself and nurturing yourself. So that's a lot to share. Thank you for that. I want to lead us in our practice. So if you wouldn't mind, how we do that is we sit in a way, it's a meditative practice in a way, but it's not for those of you who are here for the first time. It's a practice that helps you. The way we're going to sit is a way of cultivating one of the important principles in this work that I do, is cultivating resilience. And my definition of resilience is presence, awareness, balance, and flow. So sitting in a way where you can have that try to sit with your spine straight so that there can be space through your vertebrae. Sitting with lengthening in your spine, relaxing your jaw, relax your shoulder, relax your belly. and coming in contact with a point in your lower belly, which I call your center, which is about approximately the width of 3 fingers below your navel and a third of the way into the body. So imagining the point through the width of 3 fingers below your navel. From there, bring your attention inside of your body. Hold that spot, your center of gravity, impulse, personal power. Awareness. If it feels safe for you, closing your eyes, or if that doesn't feel safe for you, look down towards the ground. Bringing your attention now from your center, become aware of your contact points, the parts of your body that are connecting with what you're sitting on and the ground. From those points, feeling the stability under you. When you can really trust that stability, the nervous system will send the message to your brain. It is stable, which allows you to drop in and allow yourself to be held. So let yourself be held in this moment. In this practice, allowing feelings to flow and emotions to flow. And imagining that the ground you're sitting on is a representation of the earth beneath you. In this moment, acknowledging the earth beneath you, asking permission to sink deeper into her. Remembering, as we always say, Mother Earth does not discriminate. She holds each one of us equally. Think about that. Someone who really practices the highest level of equanimity, love, and compassion for all beings. She even supports those whose lives are dedicated to and who profit from exploiting her resources. What a trip. Considering all of the peoples who have walked the very land that you are sitting on right now, the impermanence of that, the lack of ownership of that, the gratitude to be able to grace this space in this moment. Precious. Bringing more awareness to yourself in this present moment, beginning with your physical self, just noticing what's flowing and what's happening in your physical body, listening, learning the vocabulary and wisdom of the body. From your center, become aware of your emotional body, what emotions are flowing with you without judgment, simply observing and giving space to flow. From your center, become aware of your mental body, your thoughts, not necessarily clinging to what you're thinking, but simply noticing the quality of your thoughts. And how is your physical body, your emotional body, and your mental body influencing you in this moment? Maintaining connection with your core. Personal power is the foundation of this practice, bringing awareness to the middle of your chest, your heart center, where your heart power resides, the activation of that part of the brain, where love resides, compassion, respect. wisdom, your highest values, untarnished, activating your heart. And from your center and from your heart, become aware of that part of you which has connection to something larger than yourself. For whatever that means for you, something larger than yourself. From your center and from your heart, as you connect with that part of you which has contact or connection with something larger than yourself, noticing what that connection might be in this moment. Is this part of you which is greater than you in this moment, larger than you? Just like with Mother Earth, is it free of separation? Is it free of labels? If so, just allow that to flow with you as another teacher, another ally, another access, as Mother Earth and that which is larger than yourself flow through you, through your heart, through your core, reminding you of who you are at your highest. Allowing that to flow out outside of your physical body, feeling into your own personal boundaries and your own personal space in all directions, and filling that personal space with your heart, with your core, behind you, above you, in all four directions. Allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. Taking a moment to breathe this in. I always think of the breath as like pressing save on the computer, just to breathe this in and to remember this, so to hold this as a way of moving through the world. Expanding our awareness of our heart and our personal power now from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of your personal space. This literal space that you're in provides shelter, comfort, placing yourself in that context, the here and now. Considering how you're influencing your surroundings and your surroundings are influencing you. And with this awareness from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And with this awareness of self and surroundings from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those in this meditation circle, those who are gathering from various parts of North America, from Europe, from Arab states, other parts of the world, people who are connected to this global heart practice who couldn't be here on the World Wide Web with us, but are holding space for us around the world, weaving our hearts with theirs and with each other. And with the highest level of honor and respect to each person who have committed to coming to this space to be in heart resonance with each other, rejoicing in the gifts that each one of us share in the world. With that awareness of self, surroundings, and those in this meditation circle, from your center and from your heart, take a full breath in. And holding on to this sense of self and surroundings, and particularly those in this meditation circle, for support and energy. Now bringing our awareness to the global family, to the global heart, and from your center and from your heart, first becoming aware of those human beings you would label loved ones. And let yourself be surprised who arises in your heart in this moment. How many can you hold in your heart at this moment? This is what the practice is, like a good workout. How can you increase your capacity of your heart to hold more beings in a loving way that doesn't exhaust you or deplete you? So what loved ones pop up? What groups of people, individuals? Does that influence your sense of self? Connection to that which is larger than yourself and Mother Earth and those in this meditation circle. And from your heart and from your center, simply activate the wish within yourself, or just the investigation for these people who are standing with you face to face, however many they may be. Do they need in this moment a nurturer or a protector, or both? What might they need in this moment? Am I still holding on to, with these people, any residues of defender or aggressor? And what might they need right now in terms of nurturing and protecting? Allow that to flow into your heart, from your heart. And from your center and from your heart, becoming aware of those human beings you would label stranger. Really investigate who pops up in your heart. What faces do you see, or groups of people? Surprise yourself. How many of the perhaps more than 7 billion strangers in your life can you hold in your heart right now? Again, don't just like working out, don't put too much weights on the dumbbells or whatever, but see if you can add a little bit more weight to stretch it. How many more beings can you hold in your heart? Could be a neighbor, could be someone you walk past on the street, people you've seen in the news, various parts of the world. And as you stand face to face with them, just activating in your heart the question, what might they need right now? Nurturing, protecting. In what ways, as I stand face to face, do they activate in me my defender or aggressor? And from your center and from your heart, become aware of those human beings you would label adversary. And who arises in your heart? Be honest. You're doing this with yourself, so you don't need to be your best self. Really, who are you feeling some level of adversarial sense with? It could be a family member. It could be someone on the news, group of people. With humility, just let that be and stand face to face as best you can, noticing, does that influence your level of your connection with self? Does that activate your aggressor or defender? And consider, if possible, what they might need right now to be nurtured, to be protected. All you need to do is ask the question. You don't need to do anything other than that. Allowing energy to flow and emotions to flow. And imagine that simply your desire to want to activate a bit more nurturing and protecting for these people actually gives them what they need. See them standing before you, loved ones, strangers, and adversaries, receiving the very nurturing that they need, receiving the very protection that they need, maybe even from themselves. And now imagine that all of the loved ones, strangers, and adversaries you're holding in your heart get the message, and they turn towards the rest of the strangers, loved ones, and adversaries, the rest of the human family, and they activate it within themselves the need to nurture and protect. Overcoming the aggressor and defender habituation, and so on until every human being is nurtured, is protected, while nurturing and protecting. And imagining this is what's being taught in schools to young people. This is what is naturally happening. It's the new enculturation. what that might do to all human beings, what effect that might have on all creatures on the planet, including mosquitoes, and the level of rejoicing of Mother Earth herself as she sees this unfold. And with that awareness and that image in your heart, as a way of anchoring that in your heart, take a nice full breath in. And with an awareness of this awakening or revival of the global heart through nurturing and protecting, allow all human beings, to flow into your heart as you bring your awareness back to those in this meditation circle, with a sense of companionship in what we've just generated together. Rejoicing. Allowing those in this meditation circle to flow into your heart as you bring your awareness back to your surroundings. With gratitude for your surroundings and all that is there for you, allow that to flow into your heart as you bring your awareness back to yourself. And in this moment, with the deepest level of courage, take a moment from your heart and your core to ask the question, in what ways do I need to be protected? In what ways do I need to be nurtured? Listen to the wisdom of that and commit to offering yourself that from this point on, moving forward. And as a way to close this practice, let's take one final breath. Deep, deep, deep breath. In through your nose, out through your mouth. Very slowly open your eyes, shake your body, stretch your body. Look around the room you're in. Take a moment to look onto the screen at the beautiful faces. That's my judgment, sorry. The beautiful faces in the little squares. And we've had a chance we set our motivation and our context, we did our practice, and now we have time to reflect. Is there anyone who wants to reflect on how this practice was for you, on what I shared, and how you are doing?
I'll share, Joe.
Sure.
I'm just really grateful for this. I'm grateful for today. I'm grateful for last week to tap into what you do so well with divine beings, some that I know and some that I don't know yet. And I feel so much better health in my soul from last week's and today's, and so grateful, and better positivity for what our human potential is, not just human potential, but the potential that is in creation. At the very closing of the meditation, I feel creation saying yes, like something wonderful in a moment, and that's the potential that I feel blessed with from this practice. Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Thank you.
I also want to thank you, Joe. We go back a long time, and I'm always amazed how inviting your heart is, and how I can rest in that. And especially today, I noticed how much more tired I am by hosting currently 2 traumatized people from Israel. And yeah, and it was nice to feel also the tiredness and be able to rest in that while you were building this global heart. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Paul. You are the embodiment of nurturer. That's my truth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe, I just want to say thank you. It's almost 9 p.m. here, so I don't have, especially after this beautiful deep meditation, I don't have much energy to say a lot. But I can say today is the first time I was able to relax since 3 weeks while meditating. Yeah, and this says a lot. I'm deeply touched by the process. So thank you.
Thank you, 𝗪𝗏. Thank you for all that you're holding.
Thank you.
In that part of the world with your light and your love. Thank you.
Thank you.
So if anybody else wants to share, you can share. I just want to, before we do our dedication, just a couple of announcements. I don't know if Vanessa is available to post some things. If we're going to be doing this for certainly the next 3 weeks, it'd be really, I would appreciate it if you could show up. That would be great. And to continue to telling people about it. If you would like to get updates on things that we're doing, there's a couple of links we just put in. One is for where you can sign up for the Weston Network newsletter so that you can get updates on further events. If we might pop up some events quickly, and it's just good that we can send that out in the newsletter. Or you can, Vanessa, who's on, Vanessa 𝗪𝗏, you can send her a personal direct message with your name and email address, and she can add that. Also, we don't ask money for this, but as a way, if you feel compelled in your heart to want to compensate, one way to do it is to purchase a copy of my book, Fierce Civility. This one right here. And as I say, we're getting close to the holidays, so it's a great gift for the holidays for that uncle of yours or that cousin of yours that you're forced to have to eat turkey with. You might want to get that for them or just for yourself. And what else? And we have other events. We have workshops coming up. One in the Netherlands in December and one in New York City at the end of January. So I'll send some information about that. And we are offering, we got a reliable source from someone who, if you're feeling compelled to want to donate to support financially in any way, a reliable source for those people who are displaced in Gaza, we're offering, there's a link there. No need to, but just want to provide that service. Were there any other announcements that anybody wanted to share before we close?
I'm wildly grateful to be back in this space and to feel the heart connection and to be in the familiar faces and hearts that I've spent the past 5 years with. So to offer the spaciousness on this particular day and at this particular time. Feels like a gift to slow down, to feel, to share my heart in support of the magic of how energy moves on this planet. And I can just imagine that there are people in intense places right now and experiences that are feeling the thrum of the calm, open love that is kind of balming from here. So thank you, Joe.
Thank you. So that's an invitation into a dedication. I always find it's important. Let's direct the energy we've generated. And as I always love to say, it's a statistical miracle that this 27 people or so gather of the 8 billion people on the planet, that we come and gather in this way to hold space through the World Wide Web. There's something magical about that, profound, and let's use that, what we've generated, the heart resonance we've generated, and really direct it out where we think it's needed, to ourselves in our endeavors and all that we're doing. May this energy go to, as I think it's important to emphasize over and over again, to the children of Israel, the children of Gaza, children around the world, children that I've actually experienced, who were born in refugee camps and are still as young adults in refugee camps, the children of the Ukraine, Myanmar, and other parts of the world. And may more and more people, and those who need nurturing and protecting, may they receive it in some beautiful, magical way immediately. And may more of us find ways to connect and trust that it is in our connection that we can anchor this awakening permanently. Okay. Thank you. Have a wonderful week. It's great to see you. It's and Raven, it's great to see you, even though you're not in Costa Rica at the moment. It's still nice to see you here, wherever you are on the planet, and all of you.
I'll be back in Costa Rica for next week.
Excellent, excellent. And for those of you here for the first time, thank you for showing up. Please get in touch if you have questions about what we're doing, who we are, and hope to see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.